Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome back to another explainer, where we take really fascinating concepts and break them down so you can actually use them in your real life. Today, we're looking at something we literally do every single day, but honestly, most of us are getting it completely wrong. We're talking about building trust with a complete stranger. We're going to unpack the insights of Jeremy Miner, a behavioral science expert who has spent 25 years deeply studying human psychology. And what he's discovered is absolutely wild. Building deep, immediate trust has absolutely nothing to do with being an extrovert. In fact, if you're relying on that loud, flashy charisma, you might actually be pushing people away without even realizing it. Let's look at why. What if everything you thought you knew about making a good first impression was just completely wrong? Listen, we've all been taught to obsess over our pitch, our opening joke, the exact words coming out of our mouths. But here is the reality check. The person sitting right across from you, they aren't reading your words in those first crucial moments. No, they are reading your nervous system. Your brain processes tonality and body language significantly faster than it processes actual vocabulary, which means by the time you finish your very first sentence, before you've even made a single logical point, the other person has already formed a biological opinion of you. To get why this happens, we kind of have to rewind about 2 million years. So the crucial point is, our brains were not designed for us to thrive at a corporate networking event or to make best friends at the local coffee shop. They were designed for one primary function: survival. Period. When you meet a stranger, their brain instantly runs a background scan, asking basically one question. Is this person a threat, or is this person safe? Can I lower my guard? And tragically, most of the things we normally do to try and impress people actually signal to their primitive brain that we are a threat. This entire process happens because of mirror neurons. These are these incredible little cells in our brains that pick up on subtle social cues instantaneously. It's like a built-in radar. If you walk into a conversation and your body language or maybe your slightly sped up, anxious voice communicates, hey, I really need you to like me, or I really need to close this sale, the stranger's mirror neurons pick up on that desperation immediately. You are attached to the outcome. And when human beings sense that nervous energy, when they feel like you desperately need something from them, their guard instantly goes up, and man, it stays up. So how do we actually hack this biological threat response? Well, we're going to walk through Jeremy Miner's 7 techniques, structured across the 4 chronological phases of any interaction: the setup, the engagement, the connection, and finally, the exit. Let's jump right into the very first phase. Phase 1 is the setup. This covers exactly what happens in those critical moments right before and immediately as you start a conversation. And this brings us to technique number 1. You absolutely must regulate your nervous system. Take just 30 to 60 seconds before any big interaction to physically slow your breathing down. You need to consciously decide that the outcome of this upcoming conversation does not define who you are. If you're going into a sales call, remember, they are the ones with the problem and you're the one with the solution. You shouldn't be qualifying yourself to them. When you detach your identity from the outcome, your nervous system naturally calms down. You immediately stop broadcasting neediness and you start broadcasting safety. And this brilliantly illustrates our next point. Technique number 3. As behavioral scientist Chase Hughes points out, the survival part of the human brain is completely obsessed with finding hidden intent. When it can't figure out exactly why a stranger is being super nice to you, it triggers a defensive mechanism. It starts screaming, "What does this person want from me?" The solution to this: agenda transparency. Think about it. Most people walk into a conversation awkwardly dancing around a hidden agenda. They want a sale, they want a connection, they want a favor. Instead, try just naming your intent right up front. For example, if a prospect says, "We already have a vendor, why should we go with you?" Don't just immediately launch into a rehearsed pitch about how you're number one. Say something like, "Well, honestly, I'm not quite sure that you should yet. We'd have to understand a little more about your current results to see if we can even help you." By literally giving them permission to say no, you drop their defenses entirely. The survival brain suddenly has nothing left to protect against. All right, so now that the guard is down, we move into phase 2, the engagement. This is the real heart of the dialogue, where your ego and your active listening skills will absolutely dictate whether trust blossoms or dies. Technique 2 is super simple. Stop keeping score. We all know fake rapport, right? It's saying, "Oh, you like fishing? Wow, I love fishing too." Or even worse, someone shares a personal story, and before they can even finish their sentence, you butt in to tell a slightly better version of the exact same story. We think it makes us look like a winner, but let's be honest, it just screams desperation for approval. Real trust comes from acting like you don't desperately need anything from them. It's about engaging in a genuine, two-way conversation to actually understand them, not to just win a battle of egos. Which leads perfectly into technique 4. Ask the question that nobody else asks them. For example, try asking, what is something you believed 3 years ago that you completely do not believe now? If you ask a stranger a genuinely deep question like that, or maybe, what's the best decision you've made recently that others didn't quite understand? You literally force them to stop and reflect. And here's the secret. You cannot be defensive and reflective at the exact same time. The brain just doesn't work that way. When they connect that amazing moment of self-discovery back to you, they instantly trust you. It's a real game changer. But asking great questions only works if you master technique 5. Follow the framework, not the script. Most people are just listening to respond. They are essentially just waiting for a gap in the conversation so they can inject their next clever point. And guess what? The other person's nervous system feels that your energy has shifted away. It tells them you aren't actually present. And I can promise you, not being present is the absolute fastest way to kill trust. You really have to listen to what they mean, not just what they say. When someone tells you something important, don't just awkwardly move to the next question on your mental checklist. Clarify it. Say, oh, wow, what led you to that? Or what did it actually feel like when you realized that? When you probe just a little bit below the surface, it signals to their brain, hey, I am safe here. This person actually gets me. That feeling of being genuinely understood is so incredibly rare, it acts like a magnet for trust. Once they finally feel understood, we transition smoothly to phase 3, the connection. This is where genuine, lasting human bonding actually takes place. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is we instinctively do exactly the wrong thing here. We walk into a room trying so hard to show off our credentials and our flawless track record. We wear this heavy mask of perfection just to prove we are important. But Harvard psychologist Amy Cuddy's research completely disproves this approach. She shows that the brain assesses warmth first and competence second. If you try to prove how competent you are before establishing warmth, the brain actually views you as a highly competent threat. So, to establish that crucial warmth, we use technique 6, the vulnerability loop. This is a brilliant concept documented by neuroscience expert Daniel Coyle. You have to be the first one to be human in the conversation. You voluntarily drop your mask and reveal a small, real flaw. Saying something relatable like, honestly, I got this completely wrong my first few years doing this. When you do that, the other person suddenly feels safe enough to drop their mask and match your vulnerability. Every single time that loop cycles, trust deepens immensely. This is known in social psychology as the pratfall effect. Think about it. Perfection reads as a mask, and masks make the 2 million-year-old human brain very, very nervous. We simply do not trust perfect, we trust real. So be real. Don't just emotionally dump all your problems on them, obviously, but show them you are an actual human being who occasionally makes mistakes. Finally, we reach phase 4, the exit. You've built all this incredible trust, but how you actually leave the conversation is just as important as how you started it. This is technique 7. Behavioral economist Daniel Kahneman documented what's called the peak end rule. A stranger's memory of you is not shaped by the entire hour-long duration of your chat, not at all. It's shaped exclusively by the most intense moment, the peak, and exactly how the interaction ended. Sadly, most of us completely overstay our conversational welcome until the energy just goes totally flat and runs out. Let's move to and see how this builds across a standard conversational timeline. The first few minutes are usually pretty guarded. By minute 4, things are really warming up, and right around minute 7, you hit peak energy. Both of you are laughing, you're connecting, the momentum is just amazing. Right there, at minute 7 or 8, that is exactly when you need to intentionally exit. You say something like, hey, I am absolutely loving this chat, but I've actually got to run to another meeting. Let's definitely grab coffee soon. Leaving right at the peak shows you have status, you have options, and most importantly, it leaves you as a bit of a mystery. And let me tell you, human beings absolutely love chasing a mystery. Okay, let's rapidly recap these 7 behavioral hacks so you can take them with you. Number 1, regulate your nervous system beforehand to completely kill any neediness. 2, stop keeping score and one-upping their stories. 3, name your agenda early to collapse their threat response. 4, ask unasked questions that force deep reflection. 5, listen to understand and probe further into what they mean. 6, start the vulnerability loop by being human first. And 7, always leave while the energy is at its absolute peak. When you put all of these techniques together, a very, very clear picture starts to emerge.
The real science of trust basically boils down to this. None of these techniques are about saying the perfect, most charismatic thing. None of them are about trying to be the most impressive, smartest person in the room. They're entirely about answering the subconscious brain's ultimate 2 million-year-old question, is this person safe? So I am going to leave you with this final provocative thought for the exact next time you meet a complete stranger. Are you going to waste your valuable energy trying to sound impressive, or are you going to use it to create safety? Thanks for watching this explainer. We'll see you next time.